Hello and welcome to another tactics episode with my good friend Darnish here. It's been a bit of a better few weeks for United, a win in Europa League, getting through against the Spanish side, some maybe a little bit of form in the team. United, I think, have picked up over the last 5 games the sixth most points in the Premier League, tied with Arsenal and Everton and a few others. They're through in Europa, having some decent games. So we want to talk about what's going right. What are the kind of the progress we're seeing? What are the problems we still need to solve? And kind of go back and forth on that. So first of all, how are you, Darnish? How's it going?
Good, good, thank you. Always enjoy doing this with you. It kind of bookends the season, and it
Yeah,
makes me reflect on all the games that happen, especially in the international break. Is that right? We're the sixth most formed team in the league.
yeah, yeah. Isn't that something?
That's not awful. It's not really a season where there's big pace setters who dominate the league.
Correct. Yeah.
So everyone's like out of their breath trying to chase them. It's more, can you be solid? Because I look at
Yes.
the like Brighton are 2 points off fifth, or one
Hmm.
point. I think it's 1 point off fifth. And I looked at their results, and they have the most draws in the league. I think in Christmas, from from November to December, they had 7 draws or 8 draws or
Yep.
something ridiculous like that. So it's more about staying solid
Yep.
in the table, because as you're hanging on to the cliff of the Premier League table, other people will fall around you, and you just got to watch them. Um,
Yeah.
that's that's kind of how the league works. So there has been we're not sugarcoating it. There has been some solid form. There's been more resilience. There has also been more resilience because, in my eyes, it's this team is still going through an injury crisis. So I'm buoyed by the fact that
Yes.
there is more solidity, and form has definitely improved.
Well, and that's the point there as well in these last bunch of games. We've had Lenny Yoro missing, who's been a good performer. We've had Maguire, who's been missing, who's been a good performer, very good on ball. One of the things he helps to solve is one of those problems, and at least in his passing range, for certain matchups especially. Uh, Manuel Ugarte missing some games, though the ones we had fortunately kind of suited Casemiro a little bit more than usual. We've been missing Kobbie Mainoo, as a player, like
Everybody,
ever,
everybody, Martinez,
uh,
Diallo,
Sandro, yeah, Ahmad, and a bunch of them are coming back after the break. So this form is with a lot of players that Mason Mount was in the squad for the first time in 5 months since the last international break, basically a couple games after on Sunday. He's a player that, when Amarim first came in, we had a lot more players available. Rashford was still here. Mount was available. Ahmad was available. We had a lot more solutions, like people who could solve problems in different ways for different reasons. And there was a time when we first came in, we actually maybe looked better in his first few games, and then it started to drop really hard, and now it's started to pick back up, and we've got some of these players returning. So that's very intriguing. But as you mentioned on form, it's like the top teams on form, aside from Liverpool, who are first. Um, it's Brighton, it's Fulham, it's
mm,
Crystal Palace, it's
yeah.
Brentford, it's United. It's not like these crazy teams. You have a 7 point difference from fifth to 11th, and you really couldn't split the difference on City, Newcastle, Brighton, Fulham, Villa, Bournemouth, Brentford. There's not much difference between any of these teams right now in their form and how they're playing and what they're doing. Um, not saying United can climb up the table, but the truth of the matter is if they're picking up 1.5 points per game, by the end of the season, they'll probably be somewhere in that 6 to 8 range, somehow, magically, because that's just how it goes this year. It's like consistency is over everything, and maybe United end up a little bit better off than it looked like. I mean, they're only
Yeah, I'd
six
like that.
points off of that. They're only 4 points, 5 points, 7 points off the top half. So it's always possible. But the Europa League is obviously a major focus as well. Is probably still the best route back for United. And so I think what's interesting is to discuss here is why is it working better? What are United doing that is better? Because we can talk about the opposition, but United had a very bad first half against Everton, but then
Mm.
came back and produced and got something out of it. They had, I think, a very good performance against Ipswich, despite a few catastrophic errors and a red card, and still managed to come away with a win against Ipswich. And that was kind of where things turned a little bit. They had two very good games against Sociedad. The first one, I don't think the scoreline reflected the state of that game. They had a really good game against Arsenal that probably should have been a win as well. And a very, very solid win against Leicester. And despite the opposition that we're talking about, this is a team that for a few months here, we wouldn't get a shot on target in the first half. We weren't
No.
scoring any first half goals, and now we've scored 7 in 2 games. We're creating chances more regularly. Some things are starting to work,
The form is getting better.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
that everything needs to be asterisked and context needs to be applied, and we need to explain everything. But I think, like, secretly, I can't believe no one has picked up on this. And I was doing a piece on Fernandes last night. It's set pieces that has we've scored
like 7 in a row at one point. Yeah,
we've scored 5. We've scored 5 goals from set pieces in the last 4 games. We've scored all 3 of the goals against Ipswich were from a Bruno Fernandes free kick. One of them was an own goal. I think the third one was Mags. And then Fernandes has knocked 2 in himself. So they've scored more from set pieces, but they've been in games against Arsenal and against Ipswich where, because of needs must, because Arsenal, if you sit deep against Arsenal, you're going to thwart them because their attacking play is completely broke down. It's very neat approach play, but they don't know what to do in the final third.
Yeah,
so
needs must right now. Yeah,
if you can mid block and low block and counter, that is the way to play against Arsenal. Maybe he played that way because it was, number 1, the right way to play. Number 2, because he has injuries and he doesn't have a choice. Regardless, it worked. And honestly, we should have won that game. We had golden chances at the end of it. And then again against Ipswich, it was good for 30, 40 minutes. Needs must. Your fullback gets red carded. All of a sudden, mid block, low block, and counter. United can still play that way, right? We've seen it over years.
We know we can. Yes.
I don't care who's on against Ipswich. Like it was literally Garnacho on the counter, and then Mazraoui would join in from defence. I don't care who it is. United, when they're a counter-attacking team, can do that all day, every day. They're quite good at it, actually. Like they're quite good at defending the box and countering. So it's not. There's not really been tactical changes for me. They've just been better at set pieces. And there's been 2 games where they've needed to. There's been moments against Arsenal, against Ipswich, especially against Everton. Those last 20 minutes, that last half an hour, when Fernandes scored that free kick, when they just dug in, showed a little bit of spirit, showed a little bit of resilience. That's when United, regardless of whether the tactics are working or not, that's when they start to come alive a little bit. Regardless of like whether the tactics are working or not, if you can show a little bit of resilience, you can start to build momentum. You can start to build performances. Players look like they care again. And then on top of that, Bruno is in such a rich vein of form. I think he's had 5 goal involvements in the last 4 games. He's got a hat-trick against Real Sociedad. So to me, it's been more, ever since that Everton game, it's been more resilience. It's been more digging in when you need to. And that to me is good because this team doesn't really have anything to play for left in the league, right?
Yep.
What do you have left to play for these players? They have to show the new manager, can you still pick me next season? Can you still put me in your plans in the preseason? So I think it's a good sign. We're going to learn a lot more about the tactics after the international break because the opposition is a lot more tough. It's Forest, it's City. There is Newcastle. There's a trip to Newcastle away, but it's been more of a platform of resilience. Fernandes has been better, and then the set piece goals, which nobody is picking up on. We'll get onto the tactics because I still think it's absolutely the biggest issue under Amrim. Not the tactics as a whole, just one specific nailed down part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the build up
Yeah.
for me. It's
Yes.
the amount of times I'm sure you'll get the image up that
Yep.
I've seen this image. It's just like football teams in football, regardless of who they are, the same thing will happen almost week in, week out,
Yep.
mainly because teams don't have time to train much on the training
Yep.
ground. So they work on their tactics in the summer. And then even if they're faced with problems in the season, they have to kind of go off the cuff. And it's very hard to give your players tactical instructions. I think Arne Slot said the other day, um, his first 11 rarely plays with the substitutions and the teams who don't play because the day after a game they're doing a recovery day and then they
Yep.
have 15
Correct.
minutes 15 minutes of tactics. That's
Yep.
it. So how are you going to encounter the problems in the season over 15 minutes when you've got 11 players to talk to? So that's why we see the same things happen in football week in, week out.
Yep.
And then off the cuff, a manager may decide to fix it in training if they can get their points across. But that's why we kind of just see the same thing again and again. Um, and there's not that much designated time to, unless it's like an international break now, to actually fix things. But the biggest problem for me and Amram is still the build up. It's still when pressed in build up.
Yep. Yeah, no, and it's really interesting because I've talked about this exact situation probably every single watch along that I've
Yeah,
done on here on the game, where I point out exactly what happens, because there's just two things that have improved for me for United from an execution standpoint. And one of them is that in a lot of positions, the fullbacks are getting higher when United are getting into the attack. We've seen a lot more, Dallo to Mazraoui, getting involved. We saw, like, against Arsenal, one of those moments of a Dallo to Mazraoui cross that he nearly scores, and similar things like that. And that's one of the things I think they're doing better. But I think one of the points that we know about Ruben Amorim, that we've been talking about on when doing these tactics things from day one, and that is sort of the funniest part of the whole thing with Amorim coming in mid-season, is that his wingbacks are like his most important players. And
yeah,
you can tell everything about how it's going based on his wingbacks. If they're getting pinned, you're going to have a really, really hard time. And if they're not getting out, they're going to have a hard time. And unfortunately, Dorgu came in and against Sociedad was causing heaps of trouble for Sociedad, especially in the second
yeah,
leg, with his physicality, with his solution finding, because he's left-footed, because he's an athlete, because he's what they want. And you can see just by him being in there, the team is better, much better in certain ways, just because he's doing the right things that he's capable of, and is capable of maybe doing things a bit different to what Dallo does or what Mazraoui does, especially on the left side. And it's this exact thing that's so funny, because the rest of it is going to take time. We've spoken about before, getting to the final third. That's where the set pieces have helped a lot, because the final third, we're not getting there enough, and it's going to take time. That's going to take work. Amorim said that himself. That's going to be like the last thing, is getting all the rotations in the final third right, all the attacking actions in the final third right. A couple of things that I think have worked have been, the set pieces, but also moving Garnacho to the right in the last few games.
yeah,
Less cutting in and shooting, more passing, and it's working. It's like it is working, and that helps. But yeah, let me show this, because this image to me is like, I completely agree with you on this. Is for me like the crux of the entire tactical
yeah.
discussion. This
This
is
is
the,
the
this is
this
it.
is
This is
the
where it's
problem. This
breaking
is
down.
it. This is
And
what we have to work on.
and it's really
Um,
funny too, because I just want to say that, even before Leicester, I said, look, it's more identifiable in games against teams that also play a back three, because they have an easier time of matching you
yes,
man
yeah,
for man in the press, right? And putting the wing backs on your wing backs, putting the forwards on your center backs, and they can go man to man on all your whole five players in the back and in the midfield much easier. And so it becomes even more apparent against them. Like Arsenal, I didn't particularly notice it as much because they played, different. But against Leicester, we saw it the same we saw against Ipswich and in the previous time, and against some other teams. But explain, on this exact scenario because I think it happens 10 times a game, honestly.
Yeah, I think we have to preface this by saying, like you said, it happens 10 times a game. Every time it happens, I am willing enough to grab it with a screenshot or analyze it. This is against Leicester, by the way, and the same happened
Mhm.
against Ipswich in
Yep.
Southampton. So it's
Yep.
not good if the three worst teams in the league, by far the three worst teams in the league, know exactly how to play against you. So United play three at the back. In this scenario, it's Delict, Lindelof, and Aiden Heaven. And the inside midfielder is Ogate in this situation, and the right forward is Ericsson, and the wing back is Dallo. The problem is every single player in this scenario is marked up. Every single
Mhm.
player. Dallo is getting pushed on by the winger. The Leicester centre back has run out from the back three to press Ericsson. The inside option to mark the midfielder in Ogate is marked as well. Vardy is marking Lindelof as a centre back. He can't really go back to Aiden Heaven because Patson Daka is there, and then a switch would be difficult. But this is the biggest problem. The only solution that I've seen to this, and it must be by design at this point because this is all I've seen them do, is literally hoof it down the touchline. It's gotten slightly better against Real Sociedad and Leicester because instead of hoofing it in the air for Hoyland to do SmackDown versus Raw, what they're doing now instead is they're booting it down the touchline where Hoyland is good. Hoyland is good in the channel.
Yes. Yes.
Anybody who watched any Atalanta footage
Yep.
or saw any of Hoyland's goals at Atalanta, he is fine if you knock it down the touchline and he can run onto it.
Yep.
He is worse off aerial duels wise. Not that he's not strong, just because he hasn't figured out that I need to trap the ball first and not wrestle. And he just wrestles too much. The other thing that I want to say about this, they don't move the ball quick enough yet for them to use this as an advantage.
Yes.
This should be used as an advantage. What you should
Yep.
be doing here, if possible, right? I know it's risky. Play it inside to Ugarte. This is, it's very hypothetical. Play it inside to Ugarte. Ugarte turns and switches very quickly.
Yes.
If it doesn't work, fine. I don't
Yeah.
care. The point is you need to break the press because there's one, two, three, four, five. There's six players in the half there.
Yeah.
But when there is gaps and where there's actual space and when one of these players were free in other points of the game, they normally just go back and it's just too slow.
Yes.
So you need to break the press and you need to break the build up. There's other things that you can do. This lack of movement that I see. Inter Milan are almost always in situations like this, but the
Yeah.
difference is with Inter Milan. Yes, I know they play in Serie A. The difference is with Inter Milan is the players that are in the positions that they're in now. That changes almost routinely at Inter Milan. Where
Yep.
Aiden Heaven is, Mkhitaryan, who's the midfielder, could be there. The
Yep.
striker can be deep in midfield. Rotations and
Yep.
moving parts around and players moving about but occupying the same positions confuses the opposition. It's rotations, constantly attacking rotations.
Yep.
If Mkhitaryan moves back in where Aiden Heaven is now, a player is going to go with him. It'll open up space in front of him. So they haven't figured out that they need more movement there and more rotations. Whenever a centre back does figure out that when they get it back there, they're like, okay, I need to actually dribble with the ball out. Aiden Heaven did it for 20 minutes against Leicester.
Yeah.
Martinez was doing it before he got injured. They get injured all of a sudden. Like
I know. I know.
it's so odd. A centre back figures out that like Martinez especially was figuring out I
Oh
need to
yeah.
travel with the ball here. I need to start moving forward. Lenny Yoro's done it a little bit better recently as
Yes.
well.
Yep.
Amram said it in a press conference. He said that's what I want my centre backs to do.
Yep.
There's three of them.
Yep.
So the hope is Euro keeps going with it more. Martinez comes back and looks smoother. I don't know when Martinez returns though. Feels like a long time.
And hopefully Heaven's injury isn't so bad. The first indications are better than we thought it was at the time. So yeah. Yep. But yeah, and I think it's a multifaceted thing here, and I want to show this because I've kind of put it together as well, like the exact situation that this is, with the position of the players. There are solutions, to this, right? When a team is going man to man, because of course, this is where you're talking about the first and most obvious one is this.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
this channel run, right? And it's the ability to send it in there. That's the first most obvious one. And if you would watch like in Sporting, Gyökeres, bread and butter for him, right? Run that channel, send the ball into the channel, he's going to win it. We saw against the other solution involving the striker, which we saw, I think it was against Fulham, the last time in the league we played them, where we were doing well to control the game, but we were getting absolutely nowhere. And what we would do, and this we do a lot, this from Dalot especially because he's right-footed, and this angle suits him, is just, he just tosses it up to the striker right here, right, to fight the defender and try to win the duel. When Xerxes was there, when he came on as a sub in that game, as I recall, he was winning the duels, and suddenly we could get out of this press. When it's Højlund, it's less so. But that's only one answer. This solution is definitely one. I would also say it would help when you have a left footer here, because instead of having to cut in to hit this down the channel, it's an easier ball and it's a less risky one to hit it with your left down here, because it's going towards the touch line. If it's blocked, it's going out for a throw. You get to reset. You get to start the play again. It's a less risky ball than trying to cut inside and take that extra touch. And at least on the left-footed side. The other thing that I think that has been notable and has been working, especially against Sociedad, is this being Joshua Xerxes instead of Christian Eriksen in this 10 role. Because this little pass here, Xerxes was coming so deep, right? Playing really like a third midfielder most of the game. And he would come so deep to support Dorgu. He wins the ball. He's been winning his duels. That's just one of the things you can't get past, like you're talking about with the center back, winning their duels. Just bypassing somebody. So dumping it off to Xerxes, he can win his duel, and your fullback can run down the line, and Xerxes was then sending Dorgu through. He did that a lot against Sociedad, and that's another solution. I actually want to show something on that because it's really interesting, because there was an instance in the game when Xerxes came on, where they did exactly this, and it actually worked. Let me just pull this up and show it, because it's very funny. Because I was doing this on a replay, and here it's almost the same position, but it's Xerxes instead of Eriksen.
Yeah.
So Dalot gives him the ball. He holds off the defender, and he pokes it free to Casemiro. And now look at all the space over here. And then you can switch the play, because you look at how many Leicester defenders you've attracted. 5 into this tiny little space you've attracted. But you win the duel. Eriksen's not winning that duel, right? He's never winning that duel these days. He's just not. But Xerxes can. And so then you're dragging the defenders, you're sending it back. Casemiro hits it over to Bruno. Now, Bruno lost the ball here. The pass was a little slow, but that's just execution. The idea was right. It was a way out of the press. And so, for me, it's like, but that's part of those rotations you're talking about as well. The ability for the players to know when to move, when Xerxes should be dropping all the way back here, which he can do. You can do this. You can drop all the way back to a point where you confuse them. You make Daka switch. You find your center back open. There's so many things that can happen to solve this, but it's really hard for them to. This is a totally different buildup, right, than they were doing under Ten Hag, because of course even just the fundamentals of being 3 at the back is different. It's a totally different buildup, and all those rotations I think are going to take a lot of time, but there are solutions. I mean, there's one more, that I want to show on this, that Mazraoui found later in the game, which I thought was really good once the team switched a bit, which was maybe I don't have it here, but I might not have a picture. But there was another instance where it goes to Mazraoui on this side, and he finds, and he just does this huge switch to the other side, huge switch all the way from fullback to fullback, because again you kind of have sucked the defense over on the press, and but that is a tough pass to hit as well. But it's interesting, because I think this is, in some respect, it's like I think this is for the rest of the season, how we'll be able to tell, are they getting it or not? Are they learning anything or not? Because it's execution. And I think when Dorgu is in and it's a left footer on that side, which obviously I think Amorim has wanted there, and it looked better when he was playing. Now that he'll be back from his red card, we'll be able to see more naturally how they play. And for me, it's the biggest measure because I don't expect us to solve the final third this season. We haven't solved it in years because we've been a transition team. It's going to take a lot of time. But if we could solve this, the build-up against these teams that are going to press us, then I think we'll be more consistent. We'll actually be more consistent and more in control. And that's my biggest marker. If the players are getting it, is how they deal with this build-up process.
It's absolutely the biggest problem. Yeah, I'll have a full video coming on this.
Awesome.
Sort of throughout the international breaks, people can look at it, but it's apparent as well that like the system and what Amorim wants to do works more in the Europa League because teams are not as physical as they are in the Premier League, so they don't press as intensely. So there's periods of games where they'll get tired, and then that's when gaps will appear. It's why we saw more gaps appearing against Leicester. It's why we saw them do well against Ipswich for 40 minutes in the first half. It's teams who they're not physical enough. They don't fully know what to do and press for 90 minutes. Basically, it's the worst teams. They're doing it. They can do it against worse teams. Can they do it against better teams? Can you start to improve the build-up?
You have to do it faster, quicker, against the better teams.
At the moment, they can't because they don't have any solutions to it. They don't have a designated plan that works. Hoyland can't make the ball stick. They're too slow out of build-up. Funnily enough, it worked very well against Liverpool because Liverpool do actually have problems in their press.
Yeah.
And you can target Trent Alexander-Arnold. It's just most of the games Liverpool have won this year, they control the ball for 80% of the game.
Yes, exactly.
The teams that Liverpool have struggled against, it's not it's not a coincidence. That game against Chelsea at Anfield, that game against us at Anfield, PSG over two legs.
Forest as well, who can kind of go direct at them,
Yeah, Forest went a little bit more direct, but the other games that they struggled against, teams had more of the ball.
Yes, that's true. True, it makes sense, yeah. No, that definitely adds up. And I think one of the things that's really interesting that I wanted to get your kind of take on is that I was looking at, in terms of where we're going overall under Amorim, because I think there was a time in like, maybe it was January, where people were thinking, oh crap, like United fans don't want to play like Arsenal and City, right? We've kind of noted that United fans don't want to play really slow, football, and they don't want to play purely like build up, and and I think you were getting a bit afraid that was going to be the case. But one of the things that I've noticed, and I've been kind of looking at this as a marker for some time, is United's kind of measure. There's this radial. I'll pull it up on a screen here. From data, MB, that kind of that shows like the what they're doing on a regular basis. Just the updates of like the counters, the physical defending, all of that. There was a point when Amorim, last year we look at United under Ten Hag here, and it was all counters, right? Pure transition, right? And we've been that way for a long time. But the concern,
where is this from? That's really cool.
This is from datamb.football, and it's a really cool radial. So I did a video on this after Amorim came in, and the counters were like down here by Arsenal, much lower. We've introduced a bit. One of the things I really want to make clear, like if you look at City, you can see it, right? Both City and Arsenal look at how City won't counter. They refuse to counter. They refuse to play in transition ever, right? They're all possession, it's just blocked, but it's down here at the bottom. And then it's, they score goals with possession. Arsenal are similar, right? In what they do. They score goals with possession, not with the transition. But an Amorim team, if we look at Sporting, he was never really like this, and I think people have gotten a little bit confused about what he wants. An Amorim team, he wants them to be able to attack quickly. He wants the team to not just have one way of doing things, but to be able to have high possession and attack quickly. We see that with Gyökeres if you watch him. He scores goals in possession, he scores goals in transition. He does both really, really well. And I think one of the signs of progress that I've seen is when I was looking earlier in the year, the possession has been getting better than last year for sure. The counters were near the bottom, and United were really struggling to make any chances without counters. That's why we were seeing no goals scored for so much time. But they're starting to create some goals with possession and introduce some faster attacks and transitions like we saw against Arsenal, like we saw. And I think that truthfully, I'm very optimistic because I really do think that we're starting to see like a more well-rounded United come forward, and even though we haven't got it all down right, we're starting to see like less hesitancy, I think, at times to attack, but it's still under control, and I'm very, very hopeful that the more time they get to train, people will recognize that football under Amorim isn't going to be like Pep or Arteta. It's not, doesn't have to be slow. It doesn't have to be plodding. It really can be aggressive. And I think sometimes because of the three at the back as well, people get concerned that means defensive, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be at all.
I don't think people will care if they're winning.
True.
Never. Like they never. Well, it just it's not. Some of the football we played under Ten Hag last like not last season, in his first season, when I think they lost 11 games out of 68 the entire season.
Yeah.
That football in the winter wasn't fun, but people didn't care because they were winning. That's not
true.
That's not like if United are winning, it's fine. Everything is explainable. Everything's fine, and everything's going smoothly. Even if it's bad, you have to win. Primarily because there's just too much scrutiny. It's like the Real Madrid of England. So there's always going to be scrutiny around it. If they're winning, that's when everything is at their most quietest. That's when people will stop caring about, oh, it's three at the back, and is this slow, and oh my God, I'm tired of Dallo, and oh my God, why is this system around wing backs, and why is Højlund doing this? There will be less nitpicking. As Amorim says, you have to win. You have to win games. So it's going to be really interesting after the international break to see whether this resilience can be built on, whether they keep scoring from set pieces, whether as well he opts to go for more of a mid-block and low-block like he did against Ipswich and Arsenal against other teams, or whether he's going to go for this other style. Because I imagine certain players will be back. And he said it himself after Arsenal. He's like, this is not me. We're not going to play like this in the future. But we need points on the board. So it's. I keep telling myself the season's gone, the top's done, the bottom's done. But United still remains quite intriguing, game on game.
It does. Yeah, it does. And that was sort of maybe my final question for you on this basis, because my opinion as I've gone more and more through the season is that most of, like, there's definitely learning issues and time it will take to learn things. But I also think that for me personally, I vastly underestimated how, like, the necessity for personnel, for certain personnel, for making this thing work the way that you want it to for Ruben Amorim. And I thought more of them would get it quicker, or more of them could execute it quicker and in certain ways. Moving after the break, I do think we will see more. Tactically, I think we'll see them getting better at some of the things we've already seen, because we'll actually have some time to train. We'll actually have some time to work on it. Even when he first arrived, we were actually able to work on it and see some signs. And then as the games went on, and the schedule got busy, a lot of times they went back to old habits and struggled. And we're gonna get some training time. What do you think is, like, let's assume Lenny Yoro comes back. Let's assume Maguire comes back. Let's assume Mainu is back. Honestly, what do you think is the best 11 that can be put out from the fit players? Let's say Mason Mount is actually healthy as well.
I'm glad you asked this.
Honestly, this is the big question I want to know, the kind of the final talking point.
I'm not going to sit on the fence by saying this statement, but and he did it sort of when he first came, and he'll keep doing it. Amram will change a lot. He'll be very proactive with his changes. For those people who got absolutely furious about the fact that the kids weren't playing, that happens almost every time there's kids on the
Yeah,
bench. People
yeah.
just want that whole woohoo,
Yes,
an
I know.
academy player
I
is
know.
playing woohoo.
Yeah.
It's like last season when everybody gassed Pellegrini up. He played 4 games, and everyone was like, yeah, okay, maybe he's not that good. But
Yeah.
everyone will get a chance under Amrin. Everyone has a part to play because he will be very, very um, flexible with substitutions. Minu will play certain positions. I think we've even seen Minu play up front.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes will play certain positions. Xerxes has played a number of different positions. So it'll be more so trying players in different positions to seeing what works and then going from there. But to me, I think we're slowly realizing how important the back five is in
Mm.
this team, not just defensively, but for build up.
Yep.
To me, the what I would trial if everyone is fit, Euro, Martinez, and Heaven. That's genuinely what I would go with now, just because I need the build. I'm a build up guy. I
Hmm.
need some progression. Um, Dallo, I guess, because there's nobody else that you could
Let's
throw.
assume after the break,
Yeah.
without Lissandro in heaven, but everybody
Okay.
else fit. Okay.
Crap.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
um,
assume. But I think it's. I get your the point on there is taken. So let's assume that. Then who is your best? Who is your best
okay.
three
If
center
if
backs?
if if, if Martinez and Heaven are injured,
Yeah.
I don't. Euro, Delict has to be in the middle. Delict
Yeah.
has to be in the middle because I don't want him on the left or the right because tackling, heading, blocking, great. Passing, not his forte.
Mm.
That means you're not going to progress the ball. So Euro, Delict has to be in the middle, and Maguire.
Mm.
Or
Interesting.
Delict, or Euro, Delict, Luke Deshaw if he comes back.
Yeah. Luke Shaw. Yeah.
Luke
What
Shaw,
about
is the best
Mazraoui? Is
man.
Mazraoui decent in the back three?
He is, but I would rather have is Dogu left or right? I always get mixed up
Left.
with this.
Left. Yeah. Yeah. Left. Still be
Okay,
left.
so and then right back would be Dallo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because there's not really another choice with, but we
Yeah, and I
definitely
think
need
he's
to.
better. I don't think Mazraoui's been great as a right wing back. He's struggled a bit there
Oh,
very
but I
often.
feel like I'd go Mazraoui instead of Dallo. That's not going to happen. But I just feel like there's a certain trait Mazraoui has where he'll give you 7 or 8 out of 10,
True.
uh,
Consistency. Yeah.
regardless of like I don't know. I just feel like but I feel like I see him less in the final third.
Yeah. Dallow's been doing better getting up the pitch recently. I noted it the other day, even though I didn't think his performance was great, especially in the first half on the left. I went through the replays of the game against Leicester. He's up there. He was playing like a winger, which is what you want, to be fair, from the
Yeah,
system. If
yeah,
you're
yeah.
you want your fullbacks getting high, not getting pinned deep and making a five, but when you want them getting up there because that's what's going to put pressure on the opposition. But yeah, I mean, so your back five, you would go Dorgu, Maguire, Delict, Euro,
Absolutely, yeah.
Dallo, or Mazraoui, Dallo or
Yeah,
Mazraoui.
yeah, for sure.
I get it's a little bit trade off.
It's
What
very
about the other
important to
positions?
me to
Yeah,
have Euro and Maguire because I need
passing
I
around.
need people. I need to go back and look. I don't know how many games Maguire's played at right centre back. Honestly,
Very
Maguire's the
few.
one who can shift that ball to Dogu when he's up the pitch.
Yeah, the big switches,
Euro
of course.
Euro is the
Yeah,
one who's realizing he's got the bug. 3 of them have caught the
yeah,
bug. I need to move forward from
yeah.
defence. I need to carry the ball. Um,
Hmm.
so that's what I would have.
Interesting.
Midfield. I'm interested to see what he does with Mino. I feel like I've not seen him under Amrim. He's been injured a lot, but I don't.
I know. Well, he started as a partner with Ugarte. I actually think it was okay, but
It was all right. Yeah, it
and
wasn't
then
the
he
worst
moved
thing.
and then he was moving him around, and then he got injured. But Bruno as a deep solution has been a
It's working.
solution to this build-up, and it's working.
It's
It's
working.
working.
In an ideal world, I would have Bruno against Liverpool, where it
Yes.
was you're in the front three, but you keep coming
Yes.
back anyway. That
Yeah.
was in the footage I was watching last night. I was staggered to realize he was playing in the front three because he was all over the pitch.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know because I just want Mino in the team just because it's Mino, and I feel like
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him to be in the mid because I keep watching them. we went through those clips of how they struggle in build-up, and I just think Manu's the
Can
best.
he receive the ball, turn,
Manu's
beat
the best
a
under pressure
player,
in
get
this
out of
team.
pressure? Yeah.
This is
Shouldn't he be good for that? I think so.
I agree. This is the midfielder who was thrown into Ten Hag's chaotic team last season, and he was literally any game he was thrown in, he was like, "It's you. You have to take the ball out of pressure. You gotta progress the ball past 3-4 defenders. I don't care who it is. It's Goodison Park after all the deductions. Go." And he did it.
Yeah.
He did it. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I would like to see Mainu and Ugarte, Garnacho, Xerxes and Højlund, just because there's no other choice there. But
that leaves Bruno out of the team.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So I'd like to see. I don't think Mainu will get like full 90 minutes. I think he'll be slowly bedded in because he keeps getting injured. Bruno, Ugarte, Mainu getting minutes, Højlund, Garnacho, Xerxes, Mount getting minutes.
Yeah,
Mount frequently.
That makes sense. Yeah, Mount and Mainu could be your problem solvers, I would say, in a lot of ways in there as well.
Bring them on with half an hour left if it's 0-0 and or we need to turn a result around.
Yeah, it is really interesting because when I look at it, like, in the back five, I would pretty much tend to agree. I want, Dorgu, I want Yoro in the team. I want Maguire in the team for his passing range. I do think we miss it when he's not in the team. I really do. But I want De Ligt in the team as well for his tackling. His defensive intensity has been really important, I think, as well. And I think Dalot on the right has been getting it as to being more aggressive in the attack, which is good. I would go Ugarte and Mainu in the midfield again, and I would go Xerxes and Bruno as the 10s. And, the reason for it is I think they're both been so good coming deep, receiving the ball, winning their battles, and then moving it. And I think having both of them to do that will allow the wing backs to get so high up the pitch that you can find them and that they can replace your wingers like they're supposed to. And then I'd probably keep Højlund in the center just because you still need a fast player to run the channels. You need someone doing that for solutions.
That's the other thing about that lineup. If you have Xerxes and Bruno in the 10s, whilst it makes sense, there's not really a player who can run in behind.
It's a trade-off. It's a challenge. Those wing backs have to be so aggressive for that to work.
It's just Dorgu though. It's just whenever Dorgu plays, they're miles more attacking. It's insane how much more attacking they are with Dorgu. So that's why Garnacho in the team for me is like he's the only guy who's going to keep running in behind. And he's the only guy who's not going to care about how many times it doesn't work.
Correct. He does keep doing it. Yeah.
He doesn't matter. There'll be 5 times in a game where it doesn't work, and Garnacho will be like, "Don't care, mate. Just do it again. At some point, it will work." And if it doesn't work, at least it gets him into the final third. I'd really like Garnacho to keep developing and get better at decision making and stop ignoring everyone when they overlap him and learn how to shoot better because it's a really exciting player there. And I feel as though he's the only attacker United have that frequently takes players on and can run in behind. Yep. So it's a trade-off.
It's a challenge. I know. It is. I'm not sure it's a long-term solution, but right now, the best
because Amad Diallo
is Ugarte, Garnacho, Xerxes, and Højlund. I mean, that's probably the 5. You go with the front 3 in the middle. Right now, there's Bruno and Ugarte with Xerxes, Garnacho, and Højlund in front. But I'm just not sure long-term if that is it or not. Because in long term, I really want Bruno to go, and I want Ahmad in the team, and it's like it's tricky. But at least we have options. With players returning, at least we'll have options.
I think so.
Change the game,
and hopefully we'll see some Mason Mount minutes and some Luke de Shaw minutes. But no, long term things change because Amad Diallo's back, and Amad Diallo for me has to be in the team.
But I also got to ask you about this point because let's say United get better at build-up and they start to fix it, and Dorgu's in the team, and they get better and better, right? We saw in games when United will let's say we're playing Forest. Forest are going to let us have the ball. That's how they play.
I'd like to think so. Yeah. So Nuno.
Yeah, but they're not good when they don't let teams have the ball, right? They want to play direct, they want to attack, they want to go forward with transitions. They've scored more in transition, I think, than anybody this year. They've kind of matched what maybe we used to do, a bit more under Ollie. Similar type of play, it's working for them. I like to think they let us have the ball. I look at a team like Lyon, for example, in the Europa League. They're the kind of the opposite. They don't have a lot of pace. In order to beat them, we can't sit deep and play on the run because they'll pick us apart. They're very technical. So it's like two opposite problems with teams that we're going to be facing. Against a team like Forest, when we have the ball, we won't be able to run in behind. Against a team like Lyon, we don't want to give up the ball too easily because we don't want them to pick us apart with Turkey, with these players who are very
Yeah,
technical. And
right.
so
Turkey.
I'm thinking these are both games for totally different reasons where we're going to have to be really good at maintaining the ball high up the pitch. In those games, is Hoyland and Garnacho the right players in the front three? Or do we need a Mason Mount who's going to pick apart the small spaces in the
Perhaps,
team?
perhaps.
Yeah.
I feel like you need at least one runner in behind.
Yeah, at
So
least one.
I would
Yeah.
have Garnacho in.
Have that
Because
threat.
Hoyland, it feels like I just remember because I went to see the Fulham game against Old Trafford, and I felt a little bit more sympathetic to him because he was just alone against four
Yeah.
defenders, and Calvin Bassey just bullied him. So
Yeah.
it's a trade off, and it becomes more difficult because again the best United's best performer got injured.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued at the season for the home stretch of the season. It's very important that United is still in the Europa League.
Yeah.
I keep saying it, just stay in there, just stay in there. You never know. They're at the quarterfinal stage now. Another home leg in the second leg. There's a home leg tie in the second leg. Go to Lyon, get a result, um, finish it off in the second leg. Rely on Bruno's rich vein of form. Keep letting the performances improve in the league because that momentum is going to carry you in the cups, right? The cups have
Yeah.
been more important in the last two seasons because
Yeah.
United have realized that it's not working in the league. So we're going
Yeah.
to rev ourselves up and win silverware. So it's still there. Leon are difficult. I think.
Yeah.
I haven't seen enough footage, but everyone keeps telling me about Rayan Cherki.
They're difficult, but they're also kind of slow. And so there's a way United can win in a
Okay, I
game
think we're
like
okay
that.
there then.
Because then you can use your slower center backs. You're not worried about the transition threat in the same way you would be against teams that are fast. So, you can hopefully play more technical players. But no, it's interesting. I think what I'm looking for after the break is the tactics to see a bit more of it, see a bit more improvement there. But also, I think what we'll see more of from Ruben Amorim which is how he tends to change things, is rather than changing tactics to use more available personnel to change how the game is being played, because that tends to be what he does. He's not tactically a guy who's changing formation. He's talked about that. He's going to play the same formation, the same system, the same thing, but he very much when he has it available will use personnel to change how it works based on their traits. So I think that would be really interesting to see in games. Do we use two runners? Do we use one runner? Do we use two drop deep tens, or do we use two runner tens? Things like that change how the team plays without changing the tactics, just based on the traits of the players. And I think with players available, people will start to see Amram's quite flexible, just in a different way, than you might think. He's not changing his system all the time. He's not changing his formation, but he will change players regularly to utilize their best traits. That's one of the things he was very, very good at Sporting, and why sometimes I think he's made really good impacts with substitutions, is saying, I want that player's qualities. That's what we're missing. Let me put them in, and boom, it works, and we start to get somewhere with it. And so that's my hope after the break, with more options available. I don't think we'll see 11 every game.
No.
I think we will see a lot of changing, especially in the middle and in other
especially
areas.
when players come back. I think we're going to see, we're going to see them bedded in slowly for minutes.
Yep.
And hopefully we get a team that is. Because I feel like we've just had an injury-prone team for too many large periods in the last two seasons. But we're going into the international break with a spring in our step, which is always lovely.
Yep. Exactly. All right. Well, then let's leave it there. I think that was good. I think that about covers everything we have here, and obviously we'll get back after the break and see if anything's
Yes,
actually
we will.
changed, if anything's different, and with
Against
a
the more difficult teams. Show us
yeah,
something.
exactly, and with a special focus on this build-up problem, which I think we've all looked at and said that will be how we can tell if United are improving
If we're
or
improving,
not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.